Thank you for joining us for Inside Cottonwood today. I'm your host, Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood. And I just wanted to identify today that we're going to be discussing a little bit about marathons. And because the Brian Mickelsen Memorial Marathon Program is upcoming here on April 12th, with us today, I want to introduce, and I'm pleased to introduce both Romano Scaturo, and he's kind of a health wellness enthusiast, and I'm going to call him the marathon man, and so pardon me for that, but we'll get into a little bit more about Romano here fairly quickly. We also have with us today Ryan Bigelow. He's the Recreation Services Supervisor over the city's Recreation Center. So gentlemen, thank you for being with us today, and we'll drag a little bit of information out of you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for inviting us.
You're very welcome. As we look at the Brian Mickelsen Marathon, and it is our memorial, and for Brian Mickelsen, Brian was my boss for many years, actually from 1990 all the way to his passing away in 2007. He was an incredible city manager, a very vibrant individual, and he was also an avid runner, cyclist, hockey player, soccer coach, actually soccer player. He did all kinds of things. He was a good friend as well as a wonderful, loving husband, and he immersed his life in his son's lives. And so he was really quite a gentleman, and I do miss him. And so we have this wonderful program that we call the Mickelsen Memorial Marathon Program, but we'll get in more of that with Ryan here pretty quick. Brian passed away in August of 2007 on a training run just north of Cottonwood on an early Sunday morning. And he had pretty much four passions in life, and those four passions he was very pleased about. They were his wife and his two sons, and he also had a passion for Cottonwood, and he had a passion also for physical activity. And that was one thing Brian never got away from. If he could get away at lunchtimes, he was dead set on getting away, and then early mornings on Saturdays and Sundays, you could either find him at the hockey court playing with his sons, or he was running. And so those were passions of his, and he was fairly disciplined in all that he did. And he loved Cottonwood and the Verde Valley, and he gave his heart and soul in that context of things that transpired. So we have this wonderful memorial on the behalf of Brian. And Ryan, I think I'm going to start things off with you here a bit. Tell us about the series of run programs that we have with the Mickelsen Memorial Marathon.
Well, it's not just the marathon, you know, that we have a half marathon, a 10K, and also a 2-mile. So we like to promote this event as a little bit of something for everybody. You know, you don't have to be a marathoner and to be one of the Romanos of the world out there to participate. You know,
though we would like to be.
that should be our goal.
There we go.
End. Yeah, right. But this is something for everybody. You know, we're at the rec center. We're always saying, you know, don't just make it a workout, make it a lifestyle. This is a great introductory type program to anybody who can get out there, just go experience an event like this. A lot of times that's your kickstart to really making this part of something that you do on a more regular basis.
That is. I think it's a great, you know, it functions in that capacity, and to make it a lifestyle change. And that's what we've talked about many months here now. And of course the marathon and you know, the 10K that we have a two-mile fun run, and we have the half marathon, and we'll get more into that also here in a minute. But I think that when we realize that we do have something for everyone, it's kind of the same thing at the recreation center. It's multi-generational and it's multifunctional, and so we operate in that context. I think that's kind of our philosophy, is to help people in that way. Tell our viewers what they will experience while running these courses, the beauty of the area, etc.
Well, absolutely. When I remember when we were getting around at the round table to think about, you know, how are we going to do this course? Where is it going to go? Where is it going to be? A lot of the talking points were, what does the Verde Valley have to offer? You know, what attracts people here in the first place? Let's run them to those places. And that's exactly what we do. You know, we start out at Riverfront Park, which is something that, you know, people from all over the state come around and see. The nice Little League complex, the adult softball complex. We have hockey, we have a skate park. They're amazed by what we have over there. And then you go through Old Town Cottonwood, and of course, over the last few years, we've seen a real revival of Old Town and going through there. Tuzagut National Monument is something that is, it's amazing, and we run people literally right up to the base of the monument, and they can get a first-class view of that area. Sycamore Canyon Road, the Red Rocks. Everybody knows the Verde Valley for the Red Rocks, and you get great views out Sycamore Canyon Road. Dead Horse Ranch State Park, of course, has the great views. They have the great facilities, and all of our runs go through Dead Horse Ranch State Park. So, of course, we have to thank them and really just appreciate what Dead Horse Ranch has to offer.
Well, that's pretty neat when you can experience both state parks, national parks as you're moving through the area, visually speaking, and experiencing them as you're running. And we'll get into, I think, with Romano here as to what do you think about also. So I'll give you that a little bit ahead of time. Is what do you think about mentally when you're running through as a marathon runner, and how do you discipline your mind and your body also? But Ryan, this is our 6th year, correct?
Correct.
And that we've been going through with the Mickelsen Memorial. Tell us how many years that we've actually been doing a 10K and a 2-mile and all of that.
I think earlier we discussed we're 22 years of a 10K now, which is pretty remarkable, really, when you think about it. That the city of Cottonwood has been progressive enough to be thinking about your health and wellness 22 years ago, and to make this a real staple event in not just northern Arizona, but around the state. There's folks that come here pretty regularly these days and just sign me up for what used to be the Verde Mingus blowout and is now the Brian Mickelsen Memorial. They're here. Right,
Romano, you kind of were one of the people that even were at the first one, I think, if I remember right, when we first did this program. So I think that you've actually won quite a few of the Verde Mingus blowout races. Do you remember how many?
Believe it or not, I don't think I ever won one.
I think you did.
Maybe I did, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I know I finished second a lot of times.
Okay, all right.
To a lot of good runners and good friends around the area.
It is.
But just to elaborate a little bit on what Ryan just said, the Brian was probably key in starting the race. 22 years it's been. I can't believe it's been that long.
You and I are getting old.
Yeah, I think so. But he was key to starting that, and his enthusiasm and passion for running and fitness and everything. I mean, we owe thanks to him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, thank you for that. That's great. Ryan, as we end this first segment of our program, tell us what you enjoy most about this program, the special event, and what's your primary duty or duties during the race day?
To answer the first, I really enjoy the community aspect of this event. We have nearly 100 volunteers every year, and when it comes time to make the phone calls to ask people to do it, they just say, when is the date? I'll be there. I think it really speaks to Brian and the connections that he had made throughout this community, and hopefully it speaks to a really well run event overall as well, because the community, the city of Cottonwood, comes together to bring this thing together, and it really goes off well. To answer the second part, the day of the event, I'm there to do whatever it takes to make it look like this thing is easy.
Right, and it's not, because you're running actually 4 programs inside one event.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of preparation that happens for something like this. You don't throw one of these together overnight. The permits, the coordination that you have to do with all the other entities that are involved, and as you all know, that can take a significant amount of time. But my main goal is the day of is that you don't know that I'm there, and nobody else knows that anything else could possibly be going wrong, because it's all going so smoothly.
That's good. That's great news. But I mean, I think people don't realize that in the context of running a marathon and a half marathon and then the 10K and the 2-mile, the day after, we're actually starting up again as we look forward to, in this context of things, the 2015 Mickelsen Memorial, and that's what we'll be doing. And so in reality, it does take a whole year for us to prepare. And so that's one of the things that people just don't understand or realize, but it is. It's very complex. And so it's grown that way, and we're willing to meet the challenge. So
Absolutely.
it's really a great event. We're going to take a minute break here, and I just wanted to thank you for joining us for Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood.
One of the areas still maturing in an adolescent brain is the prefrontal cortex. So when we take drugs, we alter key motivational circuits, changing the wiring needed for the cognitive function of the brain, until we can't totally deal with things like memory, thinking things out, and even learning stuff.
The signs are there. So is our help. Visit the partnership at drugfree.org for practical advice on coping with teen drug use.
Hello, I'm Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, and thank you for joining us and taking your time out of your busy day to listen to us and to watch us. With us today are Romano Scaturo, and Romano will be answering some questions here because we're going to take this time period with him to devote a little bit of information as to who you are and what makes you, I guess, what makes you tick. But you got so much going on in your life, and I'm amazed at everything that you do and your lifestyle. And so I'm just going to kind of start things off here with some questions. Tell us a bit about yourself, and where did you grow up, Romano?
Very early years was in Southern California.
Southern Cal?
In Ventura County. And, but in, I think, 1974, we moved to Arizona.
All right.
So we lived in Southern Arizona for a brief period, and then up in Flagstaff for about 5 years, and settled in here in the Verde Valley in the early 80s.
Okay. And so when was kind of the first time period that you remember running and, you know, devoting yourself to actually a running program?
I ran through school quite a bit, through junior high school and high school a bit, but I didn't really go bonkers over running and triathlons and that kind of deal until after college.
Until after college.
And I actually had started in business and was looking for something else to you know, devote my time and desires to, other than just making money.
Right. So now, was this something that we're just somewhat passionate about, or were you deeply passionate? You know?
Oh yeah. The first race I did up in Flagstaff was a biathlon, and that's opposed to the Olympic biathlon, which is shooting and skiing. They used to be called a biathlon, which was a run and bike format, or run, bike, and run. They since changed the name to duathlon. Okay. I don't even know if they even exist anymore. But anyways, first race I did, I was hooked. Yeah, on the sport, on the endurance sports.
Okay. So what I think from the very beginning, and as you look back over, you know, your past, what inspires a person every single day, you know, to get up, to run, to do these things? What is it that inspires you?
You know, that's a kind of a multifold question.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, and very individual. For me to try to put a blanket statement over everybody just wouldn't do it. You know, everybody has their own reasons. I know for myself, it was a passion to be outdoors, to be involved in something that I've learned a lot about myself, to test my limits, personal and physical, or emotional and physical limits. And it's an addicting, I guess, recreation or habit to get into, especially something like triathlons, because you have to devote so much time to it. And then after a while, if you get hooked, and whatever it may be, it's hard to break. because it is like a drug.
Well, I understand that you were, some years you were doing up to 5 or 6 biathlon marathons, et cetera, per year. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, depends. In the 90s, when I was in my younger years, there was certain years I do 25 or 30 races.
Oh my goodness!
Depending, and all various triathlons, duathlons, biking races, running races. I was an addict.
Wow.
Every weekend I had to be out there, and like I said, it does become a drug after a while.
Right.
It's it doesn't have the side effects of.
But it's a good
bad
one,
drugs,
because
it is a good drug. But like any drug, sometimes you can overdo it.
Right.
And I probably overdid it a little bit. Some people I've known people who they've lost their families and their marriages and their homes because they were so, what do you call it?
They were obsessed.
Obsessed
right.
over racing and,
right.
and places and stuff. But all in all, it's it's a good drug.
Well, and then before we, or during our break and this last break, we were just talking. You have a family of 4, your wife, and you have a business, and all the things that you do, and so balancing. And I think that's a discipline even unto itself.
It is.
And because you're starting back up, we've had a lull after the economic depression that we've been in, and now your business is coming back on board again. And you've been gone for a while, and so getting back into the pulse of things and lifestyle, it's demanding. So again, you have to discipline and balance. So it's interesting. I'm amazed how you do it. Romano, how many how many races have you participated in that you know of?
Yeah, Ryan asked me that question earlier, and I really don't know. I could do an estimate of doing this. I've done this over 25 years, and probably some years did 30 races, some years only maybe 3 races. So probably 200, 300, 400 races.
Wow, yeah,
total.
That's a lot.
It's in the hundreds, yeah. And I have most of the T-shirts are all gone.
You got the most important.
I keep the ones that are really important. I keep.
So, and we've talked also. As we look at the Brian Mickelsen, and again, we've been doing it now for close to 22 years. That we had the Verdi Mingus blowout and the run and everything, and you pretty much participated just about every one of those years, I think.
Some form or another.
Yes.
Whether it wasn't racing, I'd volunteer to do the race. I love volunteering now.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's much easier. But yeah, in some races, I can't believe it's been 22 years already that race has been going on. It's the fact that it's been going on that long and that it's progressed to this. I don't know what the enrollment is now.
Yeah, we're looking at over 600 people registering and going. So yeah, that's.
I think the first year there was about 60.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I remember that.
And there was just a handful of us, and it was as fun back then as it probably will be. Next month.
I enjoyed it when I was, throwing those first set of races. So it really was.
It's a great race for the community to become involved, to spread the word of health and fitness, to celebrate Brian Mickelsen's life and his family, and I mean it's a great event.
It is a great event. So what other endurance type events and competitions have you participated in?
I started off in triathlons back in the 80s and duathlons, and then primarily stuck with that until the 2002, and then 2003 I kind of, it was taking so much time in my life to compete at a level I wanted to compete at. I mean, you could always downsize your expectations if you want and put less time in it, but that wasn't for me.
Right.
I either wanted to go for it all the way or nothing. I actually, it may sound crazy, but I had a vision that I could win the Ironman in Hawaii.
Right.
That's what kept me going.
Wow.
I didn't think it was impossible. And but as you get older and I was turning 40, and I said, I don't think that dream was ever going to happen. So I started doing marathons, and I did marathons for about 6-7 years, and that's when I was doing about five marathons a year.
Wow.
And really enjoyed that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so and then and then I started these other crazy things that, traveling around on my bicycle.
we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take another break here, and so we'll take a minute out. And I'd like to thank you for joining us with Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood. Come back in just a minute.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it, I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Hello, I'm Richard Faust, Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood, and we're enjoying Inside Cottonwood today with Romano Scaturo and Ryan Bigelow, and wanted to get a little bit more information as we talked to Romano here in this last segment, and ending with Ryan a little bit more as to the race, as the Memorial Marathon with the Brian Mickelsen. Tell us a little bit, Romano, as it pertains to 50 at 50, a human-powered journey, as well as Frank, which is your nonprofit Family Ride Across America to Nurture Kids. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, 50, Frank, well, first I'll start. Frank is an acronym.
Okay.
It's not my name.
Right.
I'd like to know me as Frank. But Frank is an acronym for Family Ride Across America to Nurture Kids.
Right.
I started it about, I think it was in 2006. Because I was doing these annual summer trips with a friend of mine, Jim Bostwick, who's a biology teacher at the college and cross-country coach at Mingus. And after a couple of them, we said, the questions we get asked was, who are you guys? Why are you doing these trips across the country? And the main question was, who are you doing it for?
Right.
And so one year I decided to do it for local causes. One cause that was always dear to me was children and families of children who are hospitalized and having medical maladies in their lives. So we decided to raise money for that cause, and my goal was to make sure that every donation, every dollar that came in went to that cause. Everything is on a volunteer basis. There's no administrative expenses and everything. Well, I couldn't find that back then. I think now there exists some things to do, but back then there wasn't anything. So I started Frank, and I incorporated, and last year we got our 501c3 tax-exempt status, and it kind of just built from there and has taken off. So I've done a couple other longer events, including a baseball trip in 2010 to all 30 Major League Baseball parks in 1 year, going to see one game. And then in 2012, I was turning 50. I was 49, but I was going to turn 50 the following January. So I wanted to do something that coordinated with 50, and I said, well, there's 50 United States. Why don't I see if I can travel to all 50 United States using only my own power? So it's one of those crazy ideas you come up with when you're running. Go Brian Mickelsen run always helps, and came up, and I decided to give it a try. So I set out to try to from Juneau, Alaska, on April 18th in 2012, and I kayaked for about a week with another friend and local entrepreneur, John Alvey, from Alvey Signs.
Yes.
And we kayaked through the Lynn Canal in Alaska, because Juneau is landlocked, or not land, but you can only get into there via seacraft or aircraft. So we kayaked to Skagway, Alaska, and from there I had my bike pre-shipped, and I jumped on my bike a day later and started riding to all of 48 capitals, land-based capitals, from Juneau. So I succeeded. I landed in Phoenix the day before Thanksgiving. It took me 220 days, 7 months, from Juneau to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I was the 49th capital. So I landed on the 49th capital while I was 49. Only one capital left. The plan was to continue on last year this time. The plan was to continue on to Hawaii. So all I had to do was bike from Phoenix to the coast of California, get on my boat. Right. I had a custom-built rowboat. Right. Yeah, Little Star, and row to Honolulu, Hawaii. And that was the plan. Plans don't always work out like you would like to. I had a lot of issues going on in my personal life. My mother passed away last April. My wife was suffering from some illnesses. Business was pretty grim. Just a lot of things going on in my life. I couldn't up and do a road trip to Hawaii at that point. But the plan is still on. I still have a boat. 50 at 50. Right. We may have another title. It might be 50 at 52 or 55 or 50 Whatever. At 60. But 50 at 50 for 50 states on my own power will be a reality at some point.
That's incredible. I know that you're inspired by George Sheehan and Running and Being. It says, the educated man who does not move through the countryside with his own thoughts as his companions is in danger of never making the real discovery who he is. And I think that, you know, as you've gone through all of this intensity as well as the achievement, looking back, and I think the discipline that's been involved, you know, and we look at that, and I think there was a quote in here also in the paper that, you know, you'd indicated there are times that I just want to cry, and I get up in the morning, I lay in my tent and say, not another day, and you know, when you take a look at that, you think, wow, you know, there's a lot of discipline that takes place in this. It's the same thing with running and a marathon. And what you did there was just incredible. And so as we look at this, when George Sheehan stated, who is he? Who is Romano Scaturro?
That's a good question. 50 years old, or 51 now, I'm still trying to discover that. Biking on these long trips, running, helped me to define who I am.
That's awesome.
I can't, you know, you pretty much nailed it. That when you're on these trips, when you're doing something where it's a goal oriented, it's ahead of you. And for instance, in the quote, when I woke up, I remember specifically that morning when I wrote that quote about waking up in my tent and not wanting to go on. It was true.
Yes.
I wasn't just writing for something in the blog.
No, and
there's times when you wake up, and I love my home, I love my family, I love my business, and all I want to do is come home. Right. But there's a goal ahead. You know, it's to finish the capitals. It's to finish what you set out to do. It's to hit mile 26.2. It's to hit 142 if you're in an Ironman.
Right.
You keep that goal, and of course, there's monkey wrenches always thrown into every plan you have. And anyone who says it's not and everything goes perfect has never done anything like that.
That's right.
But you still keep that goal. I mean, you just take the wrench out and adjust for what's wrong, and then you continue on. A marathon is no different. I think this is probably the one thing that most runners, especially marathon runners, appreciate of what they do, is it teaches them that discipline that may be lacking in your life, right? And gives you focus on who you are, because you do learn a lot about yourself, especially in a marathon at mile 22 or 23. You learn a lot about yourself at that point.
That's what and I think that's one of the main things we wanted to hear in the context of running a marathon, is that you find out who you are. But again, I look at Romano Scaturro, and I've known you for a long time, and I see a passionate, compassionate individual who's very dedicated. and dedicated to life, dedicated to family, dedicated to helping children, and I give you kudos for that as well, and thank you for all that you do. And so thank you for being here today. Also, I'm going to jump in with Ryan here real quick as we kind of end out the time period. I know that we have some, when is the registration for the Brian Mickelsen, and how do people register?
Sure. Well, if you don't want to put your running shoes on right now, you haven't been listening to Romano
There
speak,
you go.
I'm ready to lace them up and go out there and go for a jog. You know, you can register anytime between now and the race. We actually will accept day of registrations as well. So you can go online, cottonwoodaz.gov. You can always come by us and see us at the rec center, register at the rec center. We've got something for everybody, a 2-mile, a 10K, a half marathon, and the full marathon. So if the fulls and the 26.2s aren't for you quite yet, don't worry about it. If it's just a 2-mile, that's great. That's a great starting point. You know, get out there and you can learn a lot about yourself by just getting out there.
Okay, and we've just we've had the information on the screen as to www.cottonwoodaz.gov, as well as our number 928-639-3200. Romano, you were going to say.
Can I add something about the race itself?
Yes, please do.
This is for a local race, and I've done a lot, like I said, hundreds of these. This is a well orchestrated race. It really, as races go, it is a lot of fun. And for anyone who's experienced racer, come out and try it, because I can guarantee you won't be disappointed. Not only is it organized well, but the course is one of the best anywhere.
That's what we've heard too.
It's a classic course. I think this race could go down in the category of classics if it's kept on long enough.
Absolutely. We'll keep it going.
And also the party afterwards, or the award ceremony and everything, is one of the best, with all the food and music, and it's really a good race.
All right, great. Thank you, Romano. I appreciate that greatly. Yeah. So tell us time, schedules, everything.
April 12th, the marathoners, you guys are the earliest, of course. You're at 6 a.m., half marathon 7:30, 10Ks 7:40, and 2 miles 7:50, so we just get you right out after that. Of course, we have to thank our sponsors for this, because without our sponsors, this doesn't happen. I always like to say that, every department in the city of Cottonwood has something to do with this.
They do.
We are kind of home base, but we rely on fire, police, utilities. Everybody's out there in some form or fashion. So thank you, City of Cottonwood. Thank you, Verde Valley Medical Center, for sending your folks out there, not only being a monetary sponsor, but actually having people out there in Tire Care, Heart and Vascular Center of Northern Arizona. Their folks are there too, participating. Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce, this year Northern Arizona Rehab, Mountain View Villa is always there. Solomon Sports always helps us out. So we've got a lot of great relationships through this event.
And tell us the cost real quick.
Quick and easy. Right now, you're looking at $70 for a full marathon, which is a bargain at this point. And
that is a bargain.
The half is $50 right now. 10K is $30, and the 2 miles $20. Of course, register now, because those prices will increase as we get closer. But we are very, very reasonable for the type of event that we do.
Yes, and that's very true. And as we look into that first part of April, it's normally cool in the morning. It's a beautiful time to run. It's an incredible opportunity. If you plan on doing it, please, again, make contact with us at www.cottonwoodaz.gov or 639-3200, prefix 928. The Mickelsen Memorial is just an incredible day, as Romano was indicating, and we'd like to invite you to come out, even if you're not a runner and you want to just experience just the 2 mile, which is a fun run, or if you're into 10K. A lot of people will advance through, and they move from we've seen people from the 2 mile fun go into the 10K. From the 10K, they mold themselves into a half marathon, and from there they go full marathon, and then it's like, kind of in the context of Romano, the stars are the limit, because you just keep on going. And I appreciate so much that Romano, even at 50 years of age, is out there, or 51 now, and he's going strong. So But I just wanted to close today. Again, come out to the Brian Mickelsen and enjoy the day. Have fun. If you want to just volunteer, you can contact Ryan Bigelow. Again, my thanks to both Romano Scaturo for being here today, as well as Ryan Bigelow. And thank you for joining us for Inside Cottonwood. I'm Richard Faust, your host today, and I'm the Community Services General Manager for the City of Cottonwood.